Yo, what is up, guys? Do you remember the deck that was like $1,000 back when it first came out and back when it was super meta? The Dino Rabbit deck. Well, it's kind of back here in 2017 because Rescue Rabbit is at 3. We have 3 of these cards. I'm just going to call it Emergency Rescue just to shorten it up because the name is super long. But Emergency Rescue is going to actually let you search out your Rescue Rabbit and your Rescue Cat, which can actually get back your Rescue Rabbit to go ahead and extend some of these plays. And also, because of the new ban list, this is using the new ban list to really utilize that ability to go for these huge extended plays that the deck can't offer. Now, even in the Link era, you can actually pull this off pretty easy because you don't have to control no monsters to be able to activate the effects of some of the things like Gofu, other than Gofu itself. Because when I was playing heroes like Hero Lives, obviously if you have Gofu, you can't do that. But anyways, yeah, it still can definitely work out. This is kind of the evolution of the deck, but basically, yeah, Levier can get you back the Rescue Rabbit, therefore you're going to be able to make it so it's game over here. Because you can still attack with the monsters that you bring out via the Rescue Rabbit's effect. I have 2 little quick replays I want to show you guys because I know a lot of people wanted to see this deck in action. Now, this is not the hero version that I actually showed off a while back, back in the OCG, which was getting some hype. But anyways, this one is going to be legal for TCG. And there's a lot of suggestions that I have for you guys that are interested in playing the Dino Rabbits. I know it's a very popular deck, and a lot of people want to see, how does Dino Rabbit work in 2017? Because it's a pretty iconic deck. Again, we mixed in some of the most expensive cards at the time. Tour Guide, Rescue Rabbit, all of them at 3 at that time. This was a very expensive deck. It was upwards of like $1,000. I mean, Tour Guide was like $150 for each one. And then I remember Rescue Rabbit, these were going for like $100 a piece. So, I mean, we're talking just like with 6 cards, that's like $750. We're not even getting into the other cards in the deck. But anyways, you guys can see you can make a pretty nasty field. Now, I understand because of Link era, this wouldn't technically be possible. However, you can still do it really easy, and I'll explain that in a second. But I just want to showcase off some plays over here that were sent in. Thanks, Wolfie, by the way, for showcasing off your build of the deck. But I wanted to talk a little bit more just about it in general because I had a lot of requests to actually showcase off Dino Rabbits just in general. But this one's using the Rescue Cat as well, and I'll get to that in a second. Sangan is actually kind of nerfed, so let's go ahead and go right over the deck profile, and I want to make a lot of suggestions for you guys that are interested in playing this deck, because there's a lot of cards that can actually have much better synergy to make this deck better, to be way more competitive. But anyways, first off, there's way too many vanillas in here, but I'll get into that in a second. I want to go over the deck profile really quick as it was sent in, and then I want to talk about suggestions just for Dino Rabbit builds in general. So first off, we got way too many vanillas, but we got 3 copies of Megalo Smasher X, 3 copies of Sabersaurus, and 3 copies of Caboozles. We got all the classic. These were the classic 6 monsters that you played for the dinosaurs. Anyways, next up we have 2 copies of the All-Seeing White Tiger, which is a target with Rescue Cat, technically with Rabbit as well. But anyways, next up we have 2 copies of Tin Goldfish. This will serve as another water, plus it'll serve as another target just for rank 4 plays. Next up we have 3 copies of Summoner Monk, 1 copy of Bubble Man, 2 copies of Rescue Cat, 3 copies of Rescue Rabbit. Then we have X-Saber Arabellum, 1 Tour Guide, 2 copies of Sangan, 1 Raigeki, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1 Dark Hole, 3 Emergency Rescue, 2 copies of Pot of Duality, 1 MSU, 1 Time Space Trap Hole, 1 Bottomless Trap Hole, 1 Endless Trap Hole, and 2 Solemn Strikes. For the extract, Coral Dragon, Brio, Double Bahamut, 1 Dark Rebellion, 2 copies of Lagia, 1 copy of Dolka, 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 number 41, 1 Castell, 1 Rafflesia, 1 Levier, 2 copies of Treat Toad. So with that list over here, let me go ahead and actually make a lot of suggestions. So first off, I think there's way too many vanilla monsters. Yes, Sabersaurus has 1900 attack, but this card is water, so it technically lets you go into Bahamut Shark, which allows you to have more options. Overall, the difference is very mediocre. Like, there's very little times where this will actually matter in a game. It can happen, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, this happens to be real water, which lets you have more options. Generally, it's not that big of a deal. I would say drop Sabersaurus or Caboozles. You're playing way too many vanillas in here. Speaking of vanillas, when I first saw the All-Seeing White Tiger, I was like, okay, he's got to play Totem Bird, right? Because it just happens to be a wind. I'm not sure why he's playing it, other than it being a target for Rescue Cat, because when you activate Rescue Rabbit's effect and it goes away, and let's say you double summon Rescue Cat, or however you get out Rescue Cat once again, you cannot activate Rescue Rabbit's effect once again because it can only be activated once per turn. Another thing that you can actually utilize to go for this is Gold Sarcophagus, which I'll get into a second. But anyways, I want to touch upon the All-Seeing White Tiger first, because Totem Bird could actually be a pretty good win monster. It has 19 attack, and it can negate a spell or trap card. So it just can be a card. I would suggest if you wanted to play the All-Seeing White Tiger, you can go for that. But I think that there are much better targets for a Rescue Cat to go into. I mean, the X-Saber tech was kind of nice. You had the option for Coral Dragon as well as Brio. There's also X-Saber Dark Soul. Oh, is it? How do they? Is it? The type of X. Is it X Dash Saber? Okay, so that X Dash Saber Dark Soul. Okay, there is Dark Soul over here. This card can actually work well in X Sabers. I also felt like Reinforcement Army. It only searches out, I believe, 2 targets in the deck, which is, oh, actually it doesn't search out Airbellum. It just searches out Bubbleman over here. I'm not sure if that's really worth it. Why not just play 2 copies of Bubbleman? I just feel like this card, if you happen to have Bubbleman, I understand you have Summoner Monk to get rid of it. I just don't think it's that great. I think there are much better targets. In fact, I would drop this card and just put in other beasts in here. You guys can go over here and go to monsters and then go to the effect. More likely you want something to have an effect, but this actually could matter. It depends on what you want to actually get out from the extra deck. But more likely, this card is basically a replacement for the tour guide, so you're essentially still playing 3 tour guides, although you can't detach and immediately get Sangan's effect, which is one thing that really made tour guide really good, because that was how it was ruled a while back in the game. But Sangan has gotten in errata. It's not as good as it used to be. But anyways, you can't activate cards or effects with that name for the rest of the turn. So there's a lot of downsides with the new Sangan. I just feel like it's a little bit too slow. However, to keep it classic to the original Dino Rabbit deck, I guess you guys can play Tour Guide. But I feel like, yeah, like I said, Rescue Cat is kind of like a replacement to it. It's just to go into Levier. There's another card called Gold Sarcophagus. Gold Sarcophagus is not a monster though. Anyways, Gold Sarcophagus lets you actually just go ahead and banish the Rescue Rabbit, and then if you go for your Rescue Cat or you go for Tour Guide, you can immediately have this card banished to get back the Levier. Then you can activate its effect. Now, you will obviously get the card back because it's actually moved the original target location, but yeah, that could be technically a thing that if you wanted to, you can go for it. Another thing I wanted to mention with any builds that are playing this card specifically, because most Rescue Dino Rabbit decks are going to be playing this card because it searches out Rescue Rabbit. However, your life points do have to be lower than your opponent's. So basically you reveal 3 of the same copy of it. Well, I guess with this build you couldn't force your opponent to give you Rescue Cat, but you can basically force your opponent to give you whatever you want if you happen to have them all in the deck. Obviously, if you drew one of them, you can just summon that card, right? But anyways, you reveal 3 of them. Basically, you can just reveal 3 Rescue Rabbits, and then your opponent has to give you a Rescue Rabbit. But anyways, yeah, you can only activate 1 of them per turn. But your life points, again, have to be lower. So I feel like MSC is just counterproductive to that. I would rather run a card like Cosmic Cyclone over here. And this card will actually allow you to be lower life points than your opponent. Also, cards like Upstart Goblin can be very good because going turn 1, you want to open up with that ability to summon a Logia and set the back row. Now, with Upstart Goblin, you are going to be giving your opponent 1,000 life points, but that's fine. And also, with a card like Duality, I don't think it works that well in this deck, simply because if you don't special summon, you really don't have a great turn. So I would cut out Duality completely. I'm not sure if I would go to say play Desires, because when you have the Desires plus certain targets you need to go for, it could be very minus. But by all means, if you guys want to try it, go for it. I always like to see crazy plays. Also, I want to touch upon these cards are just way too slow in the game, especially with so many cards coming out and just being immune to spells and traps. Heck, that last game we actually saw the Insector guy. He almost pulled it off. He was trying to pull off making the Insectors immune. It's actually pretty dirty. I thought that maybe we would get like Dragonfly Hornet 2 on the ban list, but there's another build of Insectors that's going around right now. I'll do a video on that very soon. But I know Dino Rabbit is pretty hype right now because everyone's really excited with the new ban list. But yeah, like I said, lowering your life points or having lower life points than your opponent is really key in this, and these cards will definitely help out. And as far as like the trap cards that we just removed, hold on if I could spell. Solemn Warning and Solemn Strike are just much better cards, simply because when you have your Lagia or Dolka up on board, you don't want your opponent to be able to chain anything with like a monster effect, so it's just much easier to just go ahead and just stop the monster before it even comes out. I think Warning was at, I know it was at 3 at one point, and then it went to, I believe, 2, and then it went to 1. Anyways, all that really matters is you want to be able to protect these guys, or now, because of the evolution of the deck, I want to say Bahamut Shark majority of the time is going to be better because you'll have 2 attackers over here. Dolka technically can be better for negations, but Lagia over here just negates 1. This can also negate 1, but then on top of that, you have more attack on board. So I think overall, as the deck has evolved, I don't think you really need the double Lagia over here. You can actually, heck, you can, well, if we're cutting out the all-seeing white tire, obviously you can add whatever you want to do, because I definitely suggest adding a few targets, because as of right now, for Rescue Cat, there's only 1 target, I believe. Yeah, there's only 1 target for this, so obviously adding that can be a little bit better. Oh, I also want to mention with Reinforcement of the Obli, Goblin Berg can also be a good target for Reinforcement of the Army. Plus, it's a warrior, so if you really want to utilize some of the other cards, you can definitely utilize the warrior exceed monsters. Now, obviously going to the Link era, for those of you guys that want to build this in real life, you're like, wait, this deck doesn't work nearly as well because of the Link era. It's really easy if you're playing this deck. You just add Triple Gofu and you just, well, whatever you want to remove. I'm just going to, for the sake of this, I'm just going to remove this because this deck is very oriented around going first. Or technically you can go second, but it's a first turn oriented deck where basically it tries to establish the win within the first, you know, 1 to 2 turns. If that doesn't go off right, then this deck just flops. That's just kind of how Dino Rabbit kind of works. Because especially this day and age with all the crazy special summoning that is going on, yeah, I would still recommend cards like Max C. I think Max C is an excellent card, but yeah, this just kind of solves that over there. Obviously, we can't. Proxy Dragon, Decode Talker, obviously the targets for the Gofu will be pretty good. And because we're playing a decent amount of dark targets, Allure of Darkness is actually at multiple, and if you banish the cards, you can actually get the cards back via Levier's effect. So there's a lot of synergy in here that can actually definitely make the deck pretty dang good. You can obviously add, you know, effect failures, maybe throw in some light targets. That way you can put in the Blackluster Soldiers. There's a lot of options with this deck. Like I said, I wanted to kind of just touch up upon some of the stuff in the deck to kind of give you guys some suggestions for those of you guys that wanted to build the deck. I'm not sure if I really like the Rescue Cat, just because the effects are negated. Oh, you can actually play, I mentioned Dark Soul, right? Is it Dark Soul one word? Yeah. The X-Saber Dark Soul, you can actually go into Hyunlei. Which actually has really good matchup against any Pendulum-based deck, because when it's Synchro Summon, you can select and destroy up to 3 spell and trap cards on the field, so you just go for this card, man, you're able to completely destroy your opponent and just get rid of 3 cards potentially with Hyunlei. But this day and age, most of the stuff, like this was a card that was popular back when X-Sabers were actually popular. The thing is that we didn't have cards like Solemn Strike at the time, and you know, Warning was still a very powerful card, but not everyone had it. It was kind of an expensive card. So like, if basically you didn't have Warning and Hyunlei went off, a lot of times people would have the Bottomless. But like, if you wrecked 3 back row and you still got like an end phase Dark Soul Search, it was really big. But that's for X-Sabers. However, you can still play this card technically in the extra deck if you wanted to go for that play. Like I said, I feel like you need some extra targets for the Rescue Cat, obviously in here since we removed the other ones. But I'm not sure how I feel about Rescue Cat this day and age, but I know it definitely does work well with this. You can run cards like Twin Twisters, other cards that can just discard a card just to, you know, utilize the cards that might be dead later in the game. However, the way I see the deck is if you've actually utilized, you know, a copy of Rescue Cat, like if you've basically gone through two of any of these, usually you're at a game state where you've either won or you've lost. Like I said, it's a very fast deck in terms of like how it wants to play. Obviously, you can go for some other rank 4s. Oh, since I mentioned adding Goblinberg and other warriors to make Gandiva is still a really good card. Heroic Champion Gandiva, excellent card. Whenever summon a level 4 lower monster, you just go ahead and detach material and destroy that special monster or monsters. Meaning, if they're actually special summoned at the same time, if you're playing Mirror Match, this card could be excellent. Like I said, that would be with Goblinberg and Bubbleman or any of the hero stuff. I kept on wanting to make this deck heroes, but I'm trying not to because that's a completely different build, which I did a video on. I'll link that build down below. I will be updating that build because we're going to have to put in GoFus and other things because of the Link era. But it can definitely be a very fun deck, and I just kind of just want to show you guys kind of the evolution of how the Dino Rabbit deck does work. But at its core concept, this one I'd say it did stay true to its original concept, which is you would use Tour Guide for Sangan, and then because we only got one tour guide, we have options for Rescue Cat. I'm not sure if I would play 2 Sangans though, because again, Sangan's effect is really slow. But anyways, you guys can let me know your suggestions down below in the comment section below of how you would kind of evolve and change this deck. But I think these suggestions definitely Cosmic Cyclone over like MST, simply because again, you want to be at lower life points, and I just want to make some suggestions and talk about the deck in general because I did have a bunch of requests for different builds. But we'll have to wait and see if it's actually going to be competitive. I think it has consistency issues, especially when so many decks are so consistent right now, especially since so many people are playing the Pot of Desires. This deck just can't really keep up with it. I mean, by all means, you can try it, but if you banish, 2 copies of this, or heck, dude, if you banish, like, if you hit 2 copies of each, your Rescue Rabbits are completely destroyed, and it's just going to really hurt your deck. But then again, the deck does revolve around some really hard first turn plays, so the way I also see it, if you want to try that, and I will definitely give you guys some gameplay later this week during the live stream, so if you're not following me on Twitch, link down below in the description box. But the way I see it is if you can pull off like a Rescue Rabbit, maybe you go for that play I was talking about, Gold Sarking the Rabbit, and then you go for a Levier play with Rescue Cat, and then you go for the Desires afterwards, right? Then you draw into the back row. If you want to maybe play some more back row, that would be an option too. Then you're looking at like a very, very strong turn 1 play, but you would require like GoFu. You'd have to have like all these, which is not that hard because you can play 3 copies of each, and technically these are all searchable, so it might not be that difficult. Plus, I was thinking about playing Allure of Darkness in here because we have triple GoFu, and you obviously don't need that many. Then you can bump up the count of Sangan up. You can just start Allure of Darknessing the Summoner Monk. There's a lot of options here is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, yeah, you can even Summoner Monk into Cat, and then on top of that, you'd have another level 4 monster, which can then extend your combo plays. There's a lot of options here, guys. And like I said, with the Rescue Hero deck, I'm gonna go ham with that. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we can utilize this. So let me know in the comment section below, like what else we can do to kind of see what the new Dino Rabbit deck does with the new Banlist. But anyways, thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing one of these classic decks. And again, guys, this deck was like $1,000. Very expensive when you include like all the cards in the extra deck and stuff like that. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, drop a like on it. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. See more new Yu-Gi-Oh content.